Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bible class. We have here the book of 2nd John, and we're in chapter 2. We're going to look at verses 15 through 17 today. It says, "Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world passeth away, and the lust thereof, but he that doeth the will of God abideth forever." All right, well, this is a rather well-known passage. Uh, We have John telling us or explaining to us that the things of the world are those three things: the lust of the flesh, it says, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life. But before we get to that, let's look at verse 15, where he says, "Love not the world." Do not love the world. Do not love the things that are in the world. If any man loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. This harkens back to what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6, where he says, "No man can serve two masters." Let's go over there and let's look, and we will see. There we go. Verse 24. "No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon." Now, why does Jesus say this? Why does he make the claim that you can't serve two masters? Why does he say that you're either going to hate the one and love the other, or hold to the one and despise the other? So you have number one. If you hate number one, then you'll love number two. Or if you hate, or if you love the first, then you'll hate the second. But well, what he's saying here, when he says you cannot serve God and mammon, what he's showing us is that, well, by definition, loving the world means that you're not loving God. And the same thing, you can't love God while you're loving the world. Of course, where is it? Love, money. There we go. 1 Timothy 6:10 says, "For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows." So going along with Jesus saying no man can serve two masters, Paul tells Timothy the love of money, and really money and mammon here are the same thing. The love of money is the root of all evil, all kinds of evil. Obviously, not every single evil that exists in the world comes from or has the love of money as its root, but the love of money contributes to so many different kinds of evil, many different kinds of evil, all kinds of evil that, well, we have to be careful. John says, "Love not the world," and this makes sense when we as Christians realize that the world is just a temporal place. The world and our time on this world is not going to last forever. In fact, it's not going to last very long. It will pass away. 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 23 through 25 shows us the difference between the things of this world and the things of God. Being born again, it says, not of corruptible seed, but of incorruptible, by the word of God, which liveth and abideth forever. For all flesh is as grass, and the glory of man as the flower of grass. The grass withereth, and the flower thereof falleth away. Yes, the grass will produce something beautiful for a short time. Yes, it will be be great, and the flower of grass will bloom, and all of this is great. But when the sun comes up after the rainy season is over, that flower withers, the flower falls or the grass withers rather, and the flower falls from the grass. But it says, the word of the Lord endures forever. And this is the word which by the gospel is preached unto you. All throughout the New Testament, we see this theme of spiritual things being longer lasting and more permanent than physical things. You can't set your sights on physical things, but as Colossians says, set your affections on things above, not on things of this earth. Why is that? Well, because Colossians 3:2, by the way, is where it says that. But we're supposed to do that. We're supposed to set our affection on things above. Why? Because as Christians, we're supposed to have put to death the man of the flesh. Colossians 3, after it says, set your affections on things above, not on things of this earth, it says, for you are dead, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is our life, shall appear, then ye shall also appear with him in glory. Mortify, therefore, your members which are upon the earth, fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection, evil concupiscence, and covetousness, which is idolatry, for which things' sake the wrath of God cometh on the children of disobedience. So go back to Jesus saying, no man can serve two masters. Well, here it says you have to put to death that part of you that follow those things. In verse 5, mortify your members which are upon the earth. Fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection. That part of you that commits those wicked acts and has those wicked thoughts. You have acts and thoughts in verse 5, in Colossians 3:5. Fornication is an act, uncleanness is an act. How about inordinate affection? Well, that's the way you think. Evil concupiscence. We should look that one up. The word concupiscence, another way of saying that is evil desire. And covetousness, of course, which is idolatry. Covetousness, that's a thought instead of an act. You act on your covetousness. And it says put to death those things, those wicked things that you think and those wicked things that you do. Put them to death. Why? Well, because that used to be your life. That used to be what you would do. But now your life is Christ. Christ, who is our life. That sounds a lot like Galatians 2. Let's see. Go to Galatians 2:20. Paul says, I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. So there's a death that happens, but Paul says, I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. And the life that I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. So Paul is living a new life. He's no longer following he's no longer living that old life, living with that old man, but he has put that to death. And with that, the things of his old man. Romans chapter 6 says, what shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin? No, he said no. And he says, let's see, verse 6, knowing this, that our old man is crucified with him, that the body of sin might be destroyed, that from henceforth, we should not serve sin. So all of this is in reference to 1 John chapter 2, verse 15, where it says, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Now, he explains to us the things of the world. And there are these three things in the world. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. lust of the flesh. This is anything that, these are the things that feel good. And when you give in to the lust of the flesh, what you are doing is you are allowing your body to dictate what you are going to do. I'm going to live for my body. I'm going to live for the things that I can feel, the things that and my body is going to dictate that. Things like drugs and alcohol, things like gluttony, things like fornication. These are all things that feel good. But any kind of addiction that happens, this is the lust of the flesh. Addicted to cigarettes, or addicted to drugs, or addicted to alcohol. These are all lusts of the flesh. Even addiction to pornography is considered a lust of the flesh. The lust of the eyes. This is the lust of the eyes is more about the things that we desire to have. Like if you think about the way Jesus was tempted, he was first, Satan first came at him with the lust of the flesh. It's actually the same order that Satan tempted Jesus in the same order that John lists these here. Maybe he lists them in that order because that's the way that Satan put them, or maybe it's just coincidental. But anyway, Satan first came to Jesus with the lust of the flesh. Command that these stones be made into bread. Why? Because Jesus is hungry. His body needs food. So Satan is saying, give in to the desires of your body. And Jesus, of course, refuses. Then you have the lust of the eyes. And what is the lust of the eye? Well, Satan takes Jesus up and shows him everything in the world and says, I'll give all of this to you. So lust of the eye it has to do with what we want and what we desire. In fact, in Colossians chapter 2, where we just read, it talked about mortifying your members, and one of the things it mentioned was covetousness, which is idolatry. Covetousness, and covetousness is letting our eyes look at things and we see those things and we desire those things, and we want those, and there are a lot of different applications to lust of the eye, but I really think it comes down to the things that we desire to have. Then there's the pride of life, and the pride of life, and once again, all of these sins have numerous application, because, well, you only have 3 categories, and there are thousands and thousands and thousands of different ways, maybe millions of different ways that you could commit sins. And they fall into 3 categories: lust of the eyes, pride of life, lust of the flesh. So we have now the pride of life. And well, what is that? Well, that's anything that boosts self. It boosts ego. Let's see, what would be a good example, a good biblical example? Lust of the eye, lust of the flesh, pride of life. David, he's on the rooftop, and he sees Bathsheba bathing. So he takes her. That's lust of the flesh. Lust of the eye would be King Ahab. Ahab and Jezebel? Yeah, it's not Ahaz and Jezebel. It's Ahab and Jezebel. King Ahab looks and sees Naboth's vineyard and says, I want that vineyard. And he gets really sad because he can't have the vineyard, and Jezebel cooks up this plan to have Naboth's reputation not just tarnished, but destroyed. He's accused of blasphemy and killed, just so Ahab can have this, just so he can have this vineyard. And then what would pride of life be? Well, when the devil tempted Adam and Eve, said, eat this fruit, it really had all three, right? It's good to eat, it looks pleasant, and it'll make you like God. Well, that temptation was appealing to the pride of life, appealing to how she wanted her ego to be stroked. You're going to be like God. You know, there's the ego. You're stroking the ego, and it's something that makes you feel. I don't know, when your ego is when somebody is, or I guess you or somebody, when your ego is being praised or lifted up or something like that, it gives you a powerful feeling. And well, oh, huh, I just thought of one. Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar. He looks out and he says, "See this great Babylon that I have built." And immediately he's driven mad because I guess not acknowledging the power of God is something that is wrong. And Nebuchadnezzar was allowing his ego to be way too inflated, and he was knocked down a few pegs. And it's kind of neat. As I sit here and think about those three examples, they're all kings and they're all looking out at something. David, looking at Bathsheba, commits gives into the lust of the flesh. Ahab, looking at the vineyard, commits the lust of the eye. Nebuchadnezzar, looking at his kingdom, commits the pride of life. Might make a good sermon. But I can't preach it to y'all because, well, I just taught it in class. So I'll have to take that somewhere else and preach it when I'm not around here. But anyway, don't do this stuff. It says it's not of the Father, it's of the world. Finally, and the world passes away and the lust thereof, but he that does the will of God abides forever. Why shouldn't we love the things of the world? Well, remember when we went to Peter and said all flesh is like grass, the glory of man is like the flower of grass. The grass withers, the flower falls away, but the word of the Lord endures forever. Well, this is very similar. The world passes away and the lust thereof. That's the grass, right? You're here for a little while and then it's gone. But the one that does the will of God abides forever. The hope of heaven is behind everything that we do. Everything that we do. If we didn't have the hope of heaven, then we would have no reason to do these things. Why should you avoid the lusts of the flesh? Well, because if you want to make it to heaven, you can't give in to these, because the only way to make it to heaven is to live a life that is acceptable to God. If you leave that out, if you say, well, God is not there, heaven is not there, well, what's left? Well, all that's left is this short time on the earth. It's still a true statement, all flesh is as grass. That would still be a true statement, right? But the urgency would grow, because now there's no afterlife. There's nothing that comes when I leave this world, and the way I've lived my life doesn't prepare the way for something that comes later. If God's not there, if God doesn't exist and the afterlife doesn't exist, then there's no reason, and there's going to be no reckoning after life. Well, that gives life all the more urgency. And if it's the case that there is no God, well, you might as well give in to the lust of the eye, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life, because you're not getting anything after that. Fortunately, though, this is true when it says the world passes away and the lust thereof, but he that does the will of God abides forever. We have that home in heaven. God is real. God does exist, and he will bring us home with him. Jesus said, I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. We will be with each other. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 says that we'll be the dead in Christ shall rise first when Jesus returns, and then we'll meet them in the air, and we'll all go. So shall we ever be with the Lord. And we're to comfort ourselves with that. We can be with Jesus because he went to prepare a place for us, and he's going to bring us to be with him. And that should get us over these lusts that are in the world. Lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, pride of life. We have something far greater, far longer lasting. We just have to make it through this life. Thank you so much for listening to this Bible class. I hope you enjoyed it. Next time we will, let's see, 1 John 2:18 says, little children, it's the last time, and as you've heard that the Antichrist. What is Antichrist? Is there an Antichrist that's going to be ahead of some world government somewhere? Or I don't believe that. I believe that John tells us who is an Antichrist. There's not more than one Antichrist, or there's not one Antichrist, there's more than one. And did you know that you can be an Antichrist? Not that you would want to, but it's possible. It's not just some big world leader out there pulling the strings that the Illuminati have given. Well, next week we'll dive into that, and we'll see. But thank you so much for your attention, for your time, and I hope you have a blessed day.